Hello. Hope everyone's having a great afternoon. Boy, it's been an exciting day. In some ways, we were just chatting offline. It's amazing. In the last year, we've been working really hard, and we're really excited to share with you some of the thinking behind how we designed Windows Phone 7. I'm Albert Shum, the guy up there. I lead the design studio for Windows Phone team. So we have an amazing team of designers. We have interaction designers, motion designers, visual designers, user researchers, design program managers, and even a team of design integrators that's been kicking butt back in Redmond working on the phone right now. And I'm lucky to be here to be able to present some of our work. But more importantly, I think, as Joe mentioned earlier this morning, this is our chance to really change the game. And when we did that early on last year, we also said, hey, we got to change the way we approach our business, some of the key technologies that we're working on. But more importantly, for us together, we have to change the way we speak to our consumers. And for that, we need a new design language. And I'm going to talk about the design language that we internally call Metro, some of the inspiration behind that, why we did what we did. But more importantly, Michael is going to join a bit later on and talk about how do you take Metro, the language, and make it yours? I think hopefully you'll see that. It's a language that allows you to create your stories. And that's what we're really excited about Metro. It's a new way for us together to speak to our audience, to our consumers. And hopefully you'll see that. And then Chad's going to bring us home and talk about how we're going to continue this conversation. And really, today it's a start. So what I want to show you here, it's the beginning. And the beginning of that relationship where we could all come together and build our phone. Cool? Sounds good. So, the story of Metro. Now, when we started, and I'm relatively new to Microsoft. I've been here about 2.5 years. I used to work on sneakers, and I make phones, and what up with that? It seems like they either, like Microsoft's totally insane, or they actually took a big chance and say, hey, we got to do things differently. And my experience working on consumer products, the most important thing is understanding what do you stand for, and what are you really about? And for us, Metro was that first start in bringing our story to life. And for some of you, you probably said, hey, that story could have been a comedy, and probably some of you thought in the audience it was going to be a tragedy and how it's going to end. But I can tell you one thing for sure, it was definitely an epic experience. And I'm glad I made it here to the last year. So I want to share with you how we got here and where we're going to go. So the story of Metro was grounded on we needed a fresh start and a new language. And we said, hey, let's step back. This is where we were a year ago. And I think we had elements of a story, right? And at the same time, we said, wow, I think we need to change some of the characters, change the plot a bit. I think we got to step back and say, is this what our consumers want? Is this what's relevant? And how do we communicate that, our experience, in a fresh new way? So literally, over 12 months ago, we said, hey, I think we got a groundings for a great story, but let's step back and we look at where we can go with our designs. And we said, let's not look at just making a phone. We decided to make a phone experience. And this is Metro, so we went from there to here in 12 months. And how do we do that? And we did it in a way, hopefully you'll see that it's grounded. It's based on a foundation of set of principles. I'll share with you those principles, and hopefully you will make it your own principles to create your amazing experiences for our consumers. So the story of Metro began with not looking at phones, not looking at PCs, not looking at other devices. Let's just look at what people do. And one of the things we're really inspired by was transportation graphics. You could be in the London Underground. You could be in Shinjuku taking a train. You could be at Las Vegas Airport. You get off the plane. Where do you go? You got to find your way. And transportation graphics, it's grounded in good design where it allows users to find their way. And ultimately, this is what's good about a UI. A user interface is to allow our users to find their way. And transportation graphics is a simple, elegant in some ways, but also universal. And that's what's really powerful about it. And that's why we call it Metro. I think you can see some of the influences transportation graphic has in our UI. But also, if you look at the use of bold colors, typography, and even just the icons themselves, I think you start seeing the relationship. We want our UI to be there to help people find their way, but not overpower the entire experience. That's where you guys come in. So we have a UI that's complementary to your experiences, and that's what's really important. So we're grounded in transportation graphics, but also we thought there was more. And we went internally, in some ways, we went scavenging hunt around the company and say, boy, what other cool stuff do we have at Microsoft? And if you look at the amazing thing that Xbox has been doing, the use of motion and movement and animation to bring content to life, we thought that's a really powerful way to immerse our users into the experience. And that's another key insight that we found. And then with Zune, some of the work we've done in Media Center, Zune client here on the PC, we thought that we needed a way to create more immersive experiences where you use content to not just, hey, show what music you're playing, but also here's music that you might like. The idea that you can use content to drive richer and richer applications that would be more immersive. That was another cool insight we found. And then to Zune HD that recently we released, where, hey, for these type of devices where it's personal, it's literally a handheld object, it's your companion to life, you bring it with you every day. How do you make something that's touch feel not just about touch, but really intimate? And I think that's where we learn a lot about how to create great touch experiences. And touch for us, it's just a start. It's actually a new way, the natural user interface that will extend across different devices. And hopefully this language will allow us to do that to more and more experiences. So touch was really important, and that's what we learned from Zune HD. So Metro, it's our design language, and it's one, hopefully you'll see that it's modern. It is a fresh start. And it breaks away from kind of conventional thinking around what a UI should be to what it needs to be. And that language is grounded on good design inspired by transportation graphics, the use of typography, the use of motion, the use of strong, iconic graphics and colors. And I want to share more about what are those fundamental principles that defines our language Metro. And I'll go through each one, and I'll kind of talk through about some examples. And Metro principles, and this is where the part is more of a conversation, it's a way for us to interpret this language and make it yours. So it doesn't have to be like, hey, you make your design this way. It's actually, how do you interpret this principle and still be true to the spirit of your experience and then the overall language. So the first principle really speaks to that. We want things to be clean, light, and open, but also we had this idea of only what you need. A lot of people say, hey, make your experience simple, make it awesome, make it simpler for me. But actually, in some ways, design is an act. And I think as designers in a room know, design is not something you just, here it is, here's your design. It's actually, design is it's a verb. You design the phone, you design your experience, and we want you to use this principle to design the experience around this principle of reducing only what you need, really editing. And we call that fierce reduction. A good UI is when you actually look at all the things that you can do and then just strip away what you don't need. And then you use other elements of the design to bring up what's relevant and what's contextual in time during the experience. So the idea of removing and editing, I mean, that's a key part of the experience that you need to drive in your design. And hopefully we can share more with you on how to do that in the next couple of days. But fierce reduction is something you should take away and say, hey, this is how I can make my experience simpler and more open and ultimately more intuitive. So that's the first principle. The other principle, it's actually something that's been a bit more, I would say, controversial, maybe not. But for us, typography, it's actually beautiful. We celebrate type. You probably have seen a lot of things written about our use of type and how we use type, not just in a way to say, hey, here's a menu or here's a item that for you to interact with. We actually celebrate type. We bring type to the foreground and say, hey, type is beautiful. Use type in a new way to pull your audience in. But also use type to be expressive, to say who you are and what your experience is about. We think type can be a lot more than it is now, and people still read, and then we want type on the printed page just as good as on any of your experiences on our devices. So type is a big investment for us, and we're going to be totally dedicated to make type come to life in our experiences. Now the next principle I think really speaks about modern. I think for UI these days, I think motion is one of those things that tends to be used a lot, animation, things bouncing back and forth. And our principle around motion is grounded on, hey, we want motion to allow our users to understand not just there's something going on, but actually understand where they are. We use motion in context. And similar, like when you have a UI that's a lot going on, you want to strip away. At the same time, you want to be able to tell people where they're coming from or where they're going to. And we focus a lot in our user experience on those transitions, where you're going and where you're coming from. And you'll see through our devices and through the tools that we offer to you, you have some powerful tools to create motion, but also think about the context of how motion is used. If you're entering a new experience, use motion to tease your user about what's next. And if you look at the use of live tiles, those are really ways to kind of, I think, serve up the content and use motion to engage your audience and pull them into the experience. So that's a new way to use motion, not just something to make it fun and delightful, but actually use motion to help people navigate and make that experience better. So that's another key principle. And ultimately, this is just a start with all this amazing technology around 3D and our UI. You're going to see motion come to life a lot more. And the other principle that we really spend a lot of energy on internally is this idea of content, not Chrome. And when we say Chrome, it's not literally like Chrome bumpers, but it's this idea that you have this device, it's a personal device, where it's a companion to life, and you're always on the go, and you really want people to just do the things that they want, meaning let them use their content to navigate. If it's your picture, let them pick their picture and navigate through that, and serve up those rich content that you've been developing and bring it to the foreground. And not when we stripped away all the chrome, the border, the frame, and I'll speak more about how do we do that and what's the principle, this principle, how it could be applied to richer panoramic experiences, why it's important to strip that away to become more immersive. So the idea that only what you need, that it's not decoration, it's a key principle. That's why if you look at our UI, it's very focused. And it's very, I would say, convicted about what each element does in our UI. So that's why it's a focus on content and not Chrome. And then ultimately, the last principle really speaks to how we got here. People ask me, "Wow, you've been working on this, and you made it so far. What's the coolest thing you think it's happened in working with the 7 team?" I think the big word for me is authentic. If you look at where we came from, we did all that internally. We actually said, hey, let's go around the company. Let's go talk to Xbox, talk to great designers like Bill Flora, who's been working on Media Center, with that rich heritage of interaction design, to Jeff Fong, who led the work on Zune HD, to Pete Chin and Jay Park, who's been working on mobile, and then to all the designers within the design community and say, wow, we have this great opportunity to redefine the future of mobile, and actually in some ways redefine new experiences for our consumers. And we said we want to do it differently. And I think that speaks to that conviction and authenticity that comes into Metro. And Metro is just a start. And hopefully you'll see that it is about true to who we are. And that's why we want, ultimately. We want this language for you to be true to who you are and keep it authentic. If your brand is fun and dynamic, make it fun and dynamic. If your brand is about getting information immediately and making it efficient, keep that true. But also respect some of these principles to help our users connect to these experiences. Sound good? So wrapping up, they're really simple principles. And actually, I'm going to do a little plug. We made a little booklet here. It's kind of the story of Metro. And it speaks to some of the inspiration and some of the principles. You could definitely pick it up at the booth. And I encourage you to kind of read it over. And we're going to speak more about how do we actually apply some of these principles together to make your experiences. So that's some of those key principles that defines our language. But like any language, you have to bring it to practice. So we did a lot of work. So we took all these principles, we iterated, we took a lot of, like I said, the designers around the company and said, hey, let's do it. It was kind of like that scene from, I don't know, Dirty Dozen or Seven Samurai. Literally, I was riding by my horse and going around asking for help. So let's all come together and really iterate on making mobile awesome. And it really speaks to the power of the community of design at Microsoft, how we're able to do that, bring this work to life, but also create a set of principles that you can apply to these designs. And we resulted in where we are today in Metro. And as I said, this is really the first fresh start. We're just starting Metro. And that's why I'm really excited that together we will continue to build Metro and extend this language into amazing experiences that you guys are all thinking about. And how do we do that together is what I'm really excited about. And so that's the key takeaway I want you to see. The booklet is just a tool for you to start engaging, but this is like I said, design is a process, and we want you to kind of interact and work with us, give us feedback on how to make Metro better, and how to make Metro better for our consumers, but also for you. And that's why Metro is really important. So that's a design language. But also, we've grounded our design language in a structure. If you're going to tell a story, you have great characters, you have great elements, but also you need a great plot. And for us, our UX is grounded on two key areas. One is about the individual and how do they do the things that they need to get done. And then the other one is about organization, just finding stuff. How do I get stuff on my phone or on my experiences? So we grounded our experience around these two key areas. And it's really expressed in two key points I want to make today. First is our start experience. Everyone's always looking at start. Hey, you got to have a cool start. You got to make it look great. No, actually, in some ways, start is about getting stuff done, helping you get to where you want. The start is experience is actually you guys. You guys have been creating the amazing apps. Like transportation graphics, our job is to help them find your apps. That's about as simple as a start experience should be. And this is why we created Start the way we want it to. On the left side, it's really about making it personal, making it relevant, and making it connected. About live tiles, where your application can actually serve up relevant content in a timely manner. We thought that was a really compelling way for you to actually connect with your audience so that you could create interactive experiences right off the bat and not have to jump into the app. So this is really about, on the left side, kind of like the fast lane to your life. How do you take this and just glance and say, oh, this is what I need, and where do I go? So it's more of a glance and go experience. At the same time, you have a lot of stuff, and we want people to be able to find it. So on the right side, it's a list, and we want it to be a simple list that people can quickly navigate. Because of touch, you have an immediate sense of where you are, and that's what we want. We want people to get me there. So that speaks to what a good job start experience should do. A start experience shouldn't be fireworks going off. It's really about helping our consumers get to your apps. So hopefully you'll see that coming through and how we can make it a better experience together with our start experience and then with your apps. And then the other part that we really invested in, and this is probably a bit more, I would say, a bit more contentious, because most people aren't used to like, hey, wow, you guys are crazy. You guys actually broke through the wall, like the frame. Most applications are literally, you have a frame and your canvas is within that frame. And that's been the model of most UIs since, there was UI. So what we said with touch and with this content, we actually want to break away from that frame and give you a larger canvas to write your story, to write your experiences. And that's why we're really excited about panoramic experiences like these we have created. And we're excited, like some of the demos we've shown you today, how you can take these framework, literally it's a canvas, and how do you create, for me, the word I use, how do you create a curated experience? Curation is a key part of these panoramic. It allows you to actually create more of a way to have a dialogue that's more immediate with your target consumer, where, hey, you can serve up what you think is relevant and what you think is timely, but also talk to the larger part about services and other things that you can integrate to your experiences. So it's a bit more expansive. It's a way, it's not like an app list where, hey, I just want to find, items. You could do that with 7 series, but at the same time, we want to give you the tool to create a more immersive experience where you can create a way for your user to not just use it, like find an activity, but also think about things like discovery or social or contextual, changing location. What would happen to these experiences? So I think the panoramic framework, we're really excited to give you the tools, and we can't wait for the next couple of weeks to see what some of the ideas you guys have about how to extend this framework to create better and better experiences. So those are the two key elements. Between our start experience, where it's about glance and go and get me there, and to our hub panoramic experiences, where it's about more immersive, integrated experiences that you can create richer and richer applications. So that's why we believe Metro, with the principles, with these key UX elements, it's a really powerful platform for you to write those stories. So that was really interesting. And then ultimately, we have a design that hopefully you'll see that it's grounded, it's relevant, it's contemporary, it's modern, and it's extensible. And that's really a key part. You can actually add on top of Metro and be complementary with these panoramic experiences with our design language. And that's what we're excited about. So we're going to show more about some of the ways that you can apply the language. Michael's going to walk you through that. At the same time, we want to talk more about how this might look in real life, life in motion. So let's cue that up. We have a little video. Thanks, Michael.
Cool. Thank you, Albert, for introducing Metro. I'm Mike Smuga. I'm the studio director for Windows Phone Design Studio. And we are in it together. Our success, we can realize our success only by working closely with you, application developers. And what I want to do in my section, I want to give you a couple of pointers for how to develop Metro applications and what you can do to make your Metro applications or to make your applications for Windows Phone amazing for the user. So there are three things that I want to focus on. Number one is you are building experiences. You are not only building applications, you are not designing user interfaces, you are building entire experiences. I want to tell you about how to make your experiences delightful. How do you put a smile on the user's face when they pick up the device and start interacting with them? And you are building experiences that need to be easy to use for the user. They need to be consistent, easy to use, because otherwise users get frustrated. So part of building experiences is you need to understand who your user is. And let me tell you a little bit about how we understand who our users are. So before every single release, before every single major version of a product, we go and we travel around the world. We have an entire team whose task is to just go and interview users in different countries. They go to France, Japan, China, UK, Brazil, pretty much all over the world, all the major countries. And they follow users. They observe how users use different mobile devices, how users use their PCs, how they interact with their friends, how they interact with their coworkers. And on top of that, we conduct a number of surveys. So we send out surveys to thousands and thousands of users to get a little bit more quantitative information. And based on that data, we try to figure out, for the next year, 2, 3 years, who is the user? What do they do? What's important to them? What do they value? And that's how we came up with personas that's how we came up with a segment for Windows Phone users that we called Life Maximizers. So Life Maximizers are, Joe talked about it a little bit earlier today in his session, but Life Maximizers are users that value technology, that are busy personally and professionally. They are more settled than seeking, so they are in their 30s. Life Maximizers interact with their friends, they interact with their families. Their private life is important to them as their personal life. And hopefully the Windows Phone device is going to allow them to accomplish some of those goals. We don't call them Life Maximizers because it's a little bit geeky, so that's why we came up with two personas, Anna and Miles. And Anna and Miles are just representative of those persona, of the life maximizer segment. So Anna, both of them, they're actually a couple. They're married. They live in Chicago. Anna is a part-time PR professional. She works from home 3 days a week. She goes to work on the other days. She commutes to work by train, so she uses her device to catch up on news, to catch up on email, and so on. Miles owns his own architecture business, so he works for himself, he works from home, but he visits his clients a lot, he uses calendar a lot, he uses email, and so on. Why am I telling you about these users? So first of all, it's important to understand who your user is. Second of all, you may choose to align your the experiences that you are developing with the end users that we picked for Windows Phone, because we're going to be marketing to these people. We're going to be talking to these people. We're going to try to appeal to these people. The more aligned we are, the easier it may be for you to get your applications kind of visible and available to the users. So next thing when it comes to thinking about experiences is you need to understand what your brand values are, or what are you trying to really accomplish with the applications that you are building. Again, don't think just about the features, but think about how do you want the users to feel about the applications that you are developing. And that's why we created this thing called Red Threads. So we've been using Red Threads in other products like Zune, Xbox, and now we are using them for Windows Phone. And those are the brand promises that we're making to the end user. If you pick up the book that Albert talked about, there are 3 red threads. There is personal. So personal means that it's tailored for you. It's designed for you. You pick up your device, it feels like this device was made right for you. You'll see different hardware options. You will see different customization options, because we want you to feel like this device was made for you. Then the next red thread that we're focusing on is relevant. So your phone provides relevant information to you. So your phone provides information that is relevant to your location. Your phone provides information that is relevant to your connections, to your social network, and so on. The third experience is connected. Or the third red thread is connected. Connected is all about being connected to the cloud, connected to your social network, but at the same time connected to other devices. So if you think about these red threads and how we use them in designing our applications, let's take the Game Hub. It's personal because you have your avatar that's personal, that represents who you are. It's relevant because it shows scores from your network. It shows information that's relevant to your friends. And it's connected because it's connected across multiple devices. So it's connected across Xbox, it's connected across PC, and it's connected across mobile devices. What does it mean to you? Again, you can align with those red threads. When you are building applications for a Windows Phone, you can think about, how do I meet those 3 promises? How do I build applications that are personal, relevant, and connected? And here is an example. So it's a simple weather application. By making available a live tile to the user, you allow this user to customize the device in such a way where if weather is important to the user, they can add it right to the start screen. Relevant, again, rather than asking the user for their location, why don't you just show the user weather for their current location? So in this case, I'm in Vegas. I want to know what weather is in Vegas, not back in Seattle. And connected, it's connected. It may be connected to weather application on the PC, or it may be connected to your social network. So in this case, you can see that maybe when I care about my relationships, I care about my connections. Therefore, I care about what the weather is like at those locations. So those are the red threads. Next, I'll tell you a little bit about how do you build delightful experiences. So delightful experiences, it means experiences that are pleasant for the user to use, that are surprising, that make the user smile. And it's not easy. It's not easy, but by applying a couple of principles, you can easily get there. So first of all, be inspired by Metro, but at the same time, think about how Metro fits within your brand value. You know, if you have certain visual style or a visual feel, try to figure out how it can work closely with Metro. We don't want applications to be completely different, but at the same time, we don't want all applications to be the same. We want every application to have, you know, something special, something that makes it different from another application on the marketplace. And again, here is a simple example of the weather application again. So you can see this is what we would design. If we were to design weather application, it's very Metro. It's very clean. It's very, you know, we pay attention to the kind of what we call the negative space. You know, we don't make it very crowded or so on. Here's an application that can be designed by a local weather channel. So, you know, the differences here are very subtle on purpose, right? But, you know, you can see the use of gradients. You can see, you know, the text boxes have rounded corners. There is a little bit more, it's more visually rich, and so on. So, again, you know, when you are thinking about the visual appeal of your application, think about it as a spectrum. It's Metro plus your own brand. Next, the use of color. Through the use of color, you can make the experience a little bit more personalized, more pleasant for the user to use. We use color in a number of places. So first of all, the user can select, you know, theme colors to allow that user to personalize the experience. But we also use color as a secondary element to highlight hierarchy. So you can see that, you know, in case of the contact card, you know, phone numbers are highlighted in a different color. You cannot see it very well here. The same thing in case of calendar. You know, we highlight the current date with color. All theming APIs are going to be available to you if you go to Peter Torres' session on how to use Silverlight to build Windows Phone applications. He's going to talk about theming a lot and about the use of color. Typography, you know, you probably have heard typography multiple times throughout the day today. We don't look at fonts and letters as just a way to convey meaning, but we think the typography is beautiful. You know, we've actually designed our own custom font for Windows Mobile, for Windows Phone devices. That's going to be available with Windows Phone 7 series, and you know, it's optimized for use on small screens. And you know, we try to celebrate typography in a number of locations, right? So you can see that we really pay attention to the height. We pay attention to the weight of fonts. We pay attention to hierarchy. But we also use type to indicate to the user what's going on with the application. So you can see, for instance, that you know, the pivots here on the left-hand side, I will talk about pivots later, are cut off. Or, you know, or the game's text is cut off. It means that there is something more of the screen. You know, look at how you are using typography in your applications, and try to do something different. Not very many people these days, you know, try to celebrate typography in their applications. They just take it as something that's you know, that's available and pretty standard. But I think if you really pay attention to fonts and formatting, you can make your application stand out from other applications. Motion, it's another element that you can use to delight the user, but there is one secret about motion. So, you know, pacing is important with motion. So you can very easily overdo it. Imagine that, you know, when you go to a movie theater and, you know, you get in and the movie starts playing, and basically, you know, right from minute number 1, the movie is just packed with action, right? So it's like 2 hours of action. You come out of that movie theater and you realize that, you know, I mean, it was a tiring experience. It was, you know, it didn't make that action special. You know, when you think about motion, think about pacing. Think about it as a way to add delight to applications. Don't overdo it. Don't tire the user with motion. Don't make it something that is annoying to the user. Like you could see with that bullet point. You know, and here's an example of where this is our earlier motion study. But you know, it's a very simple. You know, calendar is a fairly simple application, right? I mean, there is only so much you can do about calendar to make it exciting. But by adding a little bit of motion to the user, for the user, it actually makes this application pretty exciting. It's, the zoom effect is pretty interesting. How the user scrolls through different dates makes it a little bit unusual. So again, it doesn't get in the way of accomplishing a task, but it just adds, kind of delight for the user. And embrace motion. It's going to be super easy for you to add it to your applications through the tools that are going to be available to you, or that are available to you right now. But again, don't overdo it. So the next section we'll talk a little bit about making applications easy to use. So you want to make you want to think about experiences. You want to make applications delightful, but you also want to make them easy to use. So when it comes to making applications delightful, I was telling you find your own style. When it comes to applications, when it comes to making applications easy to use, don't try to find too much of your style. So try to, you basically want to make experiences as familiar for the user to use as possible. When the user gets to your application, they expect to use that application the same way they are using other parts of the Windows Phone device. So make it consistent and make it predictable. And there are a couple of elements that you should think about. So first of all, from the very top, you need to think about hardware. So we're going to make available to you hardware specifications, and there are one thing that's different about Windows Phone 7 series is that there is very standard hardware that's going to be available to all the users. It's going to be different because OEMs are going to customize this hardware in different ways, but it's very predictable. There's always 3 buttons. There's always the back button, the start button, and the search button. There are also other buttons like the camera button, the volume button, the power button. There are 2 optional keyboards, so you can have some devices will have optional keyboard, optional vertical keyboard. Some devices will have optional portrait keyboard. Take advantage of that hardware. For instance, when it comes to back, don't try to get creative about how you're using the back button. Just make it consistent. Back goes back. It's going to be, most of this stuff is going to be available to you out of the box. Don't try to customize it if you don't really have to. When you are building applications that require lots of text input, take advantage of the optional keyboards. The symbol input panel it's interesting to use. It's cool. We're trying to make it the best, but still, having those optional keyboards make entering text even easier to use, and take advantage of it. Next, think about how users will interact with your application. So we are making available to you different gestures. And again, it's important for all the gestures to be consistent across the entire device. So if you are adding a context menu to your application, you activate context menus by touching and holding an element. Just follow the same paradigm. Don't introduce additional buttons to bring up context menus. Don't introduce different mechanisms to bring up those context menus. Just make it consistent. The same is true for all the other gestures that will be available to you. Touch is very important. In the most basic kind of hardware configuration, the only way to interact with the device is through touch. And we've done a lot of studies on touch, and we've designed applications in slightly different ways to see what users like, what users don't like. And the basic rules of thumb are each touch target don't go below 9 millimeters. 7 millimeters is really the smallest you can go, but 9 millimeters is the kind of recommended size to avoid accidental actuations. If you have elements that are close to each other, make sure that they are spaced properly. The touch target doesn't necessarily have to overlap with the actual visual size of the target, but they should somehow relate because you don't want the user to wonder, about how do I activate this element or. So again, think about touch. This is the primary use of using this device, and it's very easy to make mistakes when it comes to touch and frustrate the user. When you download some of the tools that we're making available to you, you will see that some command controls are available to you. So command controls are, again, a way of building a consistent experience. We are trying to make as many command controls available to you as possible when we make the tools available. Not all command controls are going to be available to you right away. We're striving to make all command controls available, but it may take a little bit more time to make all of them available. However, Silverlight is pretty flexible, and it's very easy for you to try to start mimicking some of the controls that we are using. And and it's cool. It's totally cool if you are trying to, if a control is not available to you, but you are trying to implement it on your own and mimic that control from other locations on the device. Do it, but when you do it, we ask you for one thing: be consistent. We wouldn't want 15 different applications to feel different and completely different. So pay attention to how you interact with controls, pay attention to the visual style of controls, and pay attention to motion in controls. We're going to be blogging about this a lot. We're going to be posting sample code for you to replicate some of the motion, some of the controls, and take advantage of those resources that will be available to you. I'll tell you a little bit about a couple of controls that we're making available to that may be available to you. One of them is the application bar and menu. So this is kind of one of the primary ways of interacting with applications. So as you can see at the bottom of the screen, you have this application bar. That application bar can have up to 4 elements. Don't fill up all 4 elements if you don't need to. We're really trying to make the experience as light when it comes to the Chrome as possible. So make only the most common functions or the most used functions available in that menu at the bottom. Take advantage of the fact that you can flip it up and make other options available to the user. That kind of makes the experience a little bit less cluttered and more intuitive to the user. Another control that we're making available is the tabs control, and the tabs control really allows you to focus the user on a particular task. So we were talking about building clean experience, building experience that's fast and intuitive. And one way of accomplishing that task is by splitting your experience into multiple sub-experiences. So again, this is a pretty simple example. It's a calendar appointment, and you can see that details is on one screen, attendees is on another screen. Why put it on one screen when you can separate the 2 tasks and make it a little bit cleaner for the user? And you interact with this control in a fairly simple way. You just grab content and move, and you can flick between the tabs, or you can tap on the tabs. Hubs, you've seen hubs a lot probably by now. It's another control that we are leveraging pretty heavily across the experience, and hubs allow us to build pretty immersive experiences. Every time there is rich content, we use hubs. Every time we aggregate information from multiple sources, we use hubs. And they allow you to build this experience that's very immersive, very panoramic, very kind of fun to use. And when it comes to hubs, it's very easy to start thinking that maybe every experience should be a hub. No, an experience doesn't have to feel. You don't have to turn your experience into a hub to make it special. Here's an example, right? It's a fairly if you're building a sailing application, right, that aggregates information from multiple sources, so you can see that it's aggregating information from, let's say weather station, from mapping information, some trip or some travel planning information, some kind of weather, alert information. You can make it a hub because it's very rich. It aggregates information from multiple sources, and it allows you to deliver this fairly immersive experience. But on the right-hand side, you can see weather application. The weather application is a fairly standard weather application. There is not too much data. Why spend? Why build the entire experience as a hub when it just works perfectly as a single-page application? So think about it. When you are building your applications, think about: do I want to make it a hub, or can it be a simple kind of single-page application? And we ask ourselves this question application every single day. We on purpose don't make every experience a hub because it makes the hubs less special and less kind of less fun to use. The last thing that I want to tell you about is iconography. So, when you looked at the application bar at the bottom of the bar contains icons, and getting icons right is very hard. It's not an easy task to do. The trick to being successful with icons is iteration. So, first of all, if you are surfacing some functionality that's pretty standard across the device, use the same icons, right? So like when you're creating when you have action that creates a new element, or action that initiates I don't know the phone UI or something, just use the same consistent icons across the device. We're going to be posting those icons on along with our developer tools, and just use them. If you feel like you need to introduce your own icons, make sure you plan ahead and study them very closely with the user. What may seem obvious to you may not seem very obvious to other users. We've spent a number of hours in usability studies looking at icons in context of applications, outside of context of applications, and it's possible to get the icons right, but you have to put energy and effort into it. So that's those are some pointers for you when it comes to building applications. And Chad Roberts will tell you a little bit about where do you go from here and what do you do next. Thanks, Chad.
Thanks, Michael. So they're pretty long-winded when you start talking about Metro, I guess. So we're going to run through this. I'm just going to clean up, if you will. So I'm just going to summarize what they went over. So, excuse me. So Metro, we talked about its inspirations, its ideas. We also talked about the principles behind it. And we showed you some examples of how it looks and behaves and how it moves. We talked about the personas, Anna and Miles, and how we use them throughout our experiences, and how you guys have the opportunity to use them as well throughout your applications. We talked about red threads, personal, relevant, and connected, and how important they are through this phone experience. We also talked about, like I said, focusing on the design experience through Anna and Miles. We offered suggestions and techniques on how you guys as designers and application developers can use those principles of Metro to create user experiences that are great, unique, and personal. Metro, like Albert said, this is just the beginning, and we think that Metro is pretty flexible. And with those strong principles and with the great developer tools that we're offering now, that combination empowers you guys to create, again, unique, powerful experiences through what you guys create and build. So what's next? How do we stay informed? There's some great sessions still available at Mix that are Silverlight and Blend focused. I recommend you guys see those. There was one at 2 o'clock today on Blend. I recommend if you missed that you watch that, get involved, or watch it online when you have time. And then blog. Christian's got a blog. Start your own blog. Start your own forums. Try to get me involved with some design forums so we can all share and build this community. So what's next? Obviously, this is on everybody's slide. Get the developer tools. Download the UI and interaction guide that's available on the portal as well. Read it, understand it, and then in the next couple days or weeks, hopefully, we'll offer some, design tools that are focused both on Blend and some UI patterns that I think will get you guys started in the right direction. Late breaking news that I think on Wednesday they're looking for some people to participate in some usability sessions. So go to the booth. Karina's raising her hand. See her if you want to participate in that. And then, Susan Todd, thank you. And then again, pick up the book. It explains a lot of the Metro principles. It's got a lot of the files that we showed in the presentation. So I will bring Michael and Albert back up if you guys have any questions. And I think
we've got mission T-shirts.
We've got some T-shirts for the first few people that ask a question.
Swag.
So I think there's microphones right up there. If you guys, a forward one and a back one. Oops.
It's really wonderful how much thought you've put into the design and everything. I was wondering about the name, which is kind of a mouthful right now, Windows Phone 7 series. Do we have an official short name for it?
Well, I love Windows Phone, so Windows Phone works.
Windows Phone is okay, and we can blog about it, and yeah.
Yeah, I think Windows Phone 7 series is the official, release. Yeah, Windows Phone will help us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Great.
Oops. Do you want a T-shirt?
Oh, T-shirt. Yeah, come on up.
Next question.
So the hardware.
Oops, in the back. Sorry.
Can you please explain what's the idea behind that arrow button to the apps and the old white space below it? Looks to me like invisible Chrome.
Which part?
On the home screen.
And start.
The button, the arrow to the.
We call it.
And below it.
Yeah,
there's
the
lots
gutter.
of-
Yeah, I think, and it's really actually we were trying to create affordance between the left and the right to allow people to swipe. It's a swipeable area on the home screen, and actually when you use it, we want people to be able to immediately, quickly swipe that and not have to get into an application. So there was a lot of balance between usability and like you said, we need to create that balance so that the Chrome is not there, but we also need to make sure it's usable.
Thank you.
Now in the front.
Okay. The hardware specifies 4 touch points. Have you guys done any research on gestures that are more than 2 touch points?
I don't know if we have. So we're not using any gestures.
For doing
Pinch, zoom? Or?
yeah, pinch, zoom. Have you done anything that is more than 2, like 3 or 4? Or are you guys going to utilize the hardware, the 4 touch points?
We are not using it in any core experiences. We've done a lot of that stuff, with Surface and other products, but we're not doing it with Windows Phone. At the same time, if you're a game developer, definitely you can take advantage of it, right? It's the core scenarios. It's we think kind of the multi-touch that we have right now. It's good enough.
Now in the back.
Can you talk a little bit about SketchFlow and Windows 7 app development?
I think there's some other sessions at Mix that do a better job than the 3 of us would do in that. So I would suggest you check the schedule.
Which session would that be?
There is a blend session.
Clicker. There was a blend session at 2 today that I think is very helpful. That I think he dabbled in SketchFlow. Watch that back online when it's available. In the front.
Geez, how many T-shirts do we have left? Before
What's that?
before we run out.
I'm wondering about what thoughts you have in terms of using the Metro UI design philosophy on larger screens. So when you develop a Windows application now, do you hope to see something that looks sort of like that and uses a panoramic style only on in a way that makes sense for higher resolution?
The concept of Metro has evolved. So it kind of actually started in a 10-foot space with Media Center.
The Media Center.
So we have some experience in that, and now it's gone down to a small screen, and hopefully, we do explorations on how you bring that to life to the next level. So,
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So definitely, we're in mind. I think the panoramic experiences offer up, like I said, the canvas to actually scale up your experiences easier.
I guess I'm wondering, did you do any work yet on how well that works in terms of user testing on maybe larger resolutions and screens than what you have right now with the phone?
Yeah, we definitely, we've been working, actually that's our homework.
Yeah.
So we've been doing that for quite a bit, actually. So.
Okay.
In the back.
Is there a collection of sample applications so those of us that are lazy coders can take somebody else's stuff and turn it into
What lazy
an app?
coders?
Start with a template and say, I don't want to have to figure out how to do this header and how to space it the right way. Take something that's already up and a collection of samples that we can
So
start
I
with.
believe the answer is yes. I mean, I think with the tools, there's sample templates. Hopefully that number of templates continues to grow as closer to the next release. I think
definitely. Yeah.
We want to develop applications that are open source, so for everybody to kind of get the ball rolling.
Is there anything there today that we can go get with the developer tools and start?
I think if you download
Yes.
Blend,
Man in front says yes.
Yeah, some of the controls are already available to you. So if you looked at the one of earlier sessions today, you can just drag a control onto the canvas.
I'm not talking about design. I'm talking about real apps that you can go get and plow through.
Yeah,
and figure out how they get
developers,
put together.
windowsphone.com, definitely. You could download for sure. Thanks.
In the front.
There's a hub way to design apps and also the single screen way
Yeah.
to design applications. Do you guys see that there's going to be any other models in the future that you're working on, or is that going to be sufficient?
That should be sufficient for now. I mean, those are the two areas that we're focusing
Yeah,
on.
and we're always open to feedback. I think that's why we're here.
We would love to start a community. So if you guys need things, want things, open it up.
Yeah, and try it out. So.
We got one more shirt?
Two.
Gentleman in the back.
Yeah, the way you guys were talking about hubs, does that mean that third-party developers will be able to create our own hubs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
We want people to create hubs.
Yes.
Yeah, I was noticing in the application list that a lot of the applications use this new bold blue tile style with the simple icon, but some of them were the older style with the bold gradient icon, like the IE, for example. What was the rationale behind the two different styles?
The use of color theming.
So on the tokens or on the
live tiles?
Live tiles.
Yeah. So every time when application has certain brand or feel, we try to surface it in the tile.
Just like you as an app developer will create an icon that really, hopefully, gives value to your application so there's not a big jarring. So if your application is very metro, don't have a big 3D rendered icon on your live tile.
Yeah. And by the way, we're still trying in the process of figuring out what the final live tiles are gonna look like.
Right. But but it should be able to represent your experience in the live tile and your brand. If you look at the Xbox versus we want it to feel like Xbox. Yeah. Likewise, if you're building an app, we want it to feel like it's your app. So.
Okay.
One more in the back and one more in the front.
So the Metro UI design is a very clean, simple looking design. What has been your answer to the carriers and OEMs who approach you and say, how do we distinguish ourselves? How do we have a unique look and feel for Sprint or Orange or Verizon?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we've actually had a lot of those conversations with our partners. And it is one of the things, like I mentioned, we have to make choices. For the user, it's about being familiar, getting there and get what you want. At the same time, like you said, how do we create a differentiated experiences? So we've been working with all our partners to create, I think, through the application, through those hubs, and through the live tiles. Hopefully you'll see when we actually launch the phones, there will be some pretty rich experiences that allow them to create their content for their users. So it's really about the application themselves and not about creating different versions of the UI where people get lost. Does this phone navigate this way or that phone navigates that way?
But I think it goes back to that it's still new and it's still kind of ever growing.
So just a little follow on that. So then you're saying that the email client for Sprint might look totally different, have a different hub than the email client for Verizon.
No, what I'm saying is I think for our partners, if they have content and applications that they want to serve up that's unique to their services, we're definitely going to work together on creating those. So whereas I think for email, you just want to get your email, so it should just work. So
one more in the front.
I have two questions, actually. One quick one. What happens if you create a hub and there's already one out there that other companies have used, like travel? It means that your application is suddenly mixed in with theirs?
No, actually, I think that's one of the, it's not about aggregating. It's not just one hub. It's your hub. Think of it's your app. If you're creating a travel app that has a panoramic presentation of your experience, it'll be uniquely to yours. So
but you could have two hubs with the same name then, is what I'm saying.
No, it's up to you what you want to brand it. You could, it could be Michael's Travel.
But it's still quite possible, though, that two companies who didn't know of one another could create two hubs with the same name.
Yeah, you can. I mean, it's going to happen.
You don't
right?
think that'll be confusing to the user?
No, there's multiple weather applications, right? Like the user doesn't download 15 different weather applications. The user downloads the best weather application, right?
So it's open. So I think the idea that we want you guys to all create amazing apps, and it's up to the user to decide what's relevant for them, and we allow that choice, and it's ultimately about choice. And if you want the weather app for sailing, or you just want a weather app for your city or your friends, we actually allow you to do that. So.
Okay, and just if you could provide a little bit more of your thoughts about, I keep hearing that you want us to, create sort of one set of sources that can be used across, multiple screens, so to speak, Windows, Xbox 360, Windows Phone 7 series. But I'm hearing things like Silverlight 4 is not going to be part of the initial release of Windows 7.
I think
Windows Phone 7, is that right?
Well, I think the tools today, and hope
it's
you
based
release,
on Silverlight 3, according to the last presentation we saw.
Yeah, I think that's a good conversation about what the platform is. I think from a design point of view, I think we're looking for more on the consistency on the UX. So on the actual technology, I think if you go to the developer tools, you actually see how you can actually work on different screens with that tool.
But the burden then is on the developer to figure out what pieces are actually common that can be used.
I think it's pretty consistent in terms of the tool. So it shouldn't be, it should be quite evident. So.
Okay.
One more in the back.
Thank you. Victor Larsson from Avanade. You talked about Anna and Miles as design targets. Did you have any other design targets that were killed during your progress?
There is one more. There is Luca, but he's not kind of official. He's the child of Anna.
Yeah.
He's still alive. He's in the video.
The way we look at personas, it's actually, when we use it, it's a tool. I just want people to understand when we use persona, it's actually help us make better design decisions. So I'm not designing a phone for myself, and Michael's not designing a phone for him. We're designing actually for our users. And we felt that Anna Miles, it's an amalgamation of a cross-section of users, and they really represent to us who we think smartphone users are today and what they're doing. So hopefully that life maximizer or that target persona we talk about, it's an encompassing user group that allows all of us to create apps that's relevant to them. So. And as we grow Metro together, we will have, obviously, larger segmentation and hopefully different personas for us to create more and more experiences.
Great. Thank you for a good presentation.
Great. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
We're going to be in the Ask the Expert session at 4:30, I think.
Yeah, feel free, and we'll
stop by or